Welcome to Own the Season podcast. We will talk to industry insiders along with outdoor enthusiasts to help you own your season. Now let's join hosts Art and Michelle Helen with Brad Jones. Own the Season podcast is sponsored by Griffin Armament, the oldest privately owned silencer manufacturer in the United States. Go to griffinarmament.com to learn how you can get a silencer shipped to your door. Griffin Armament, engineered silence.
Hello and welcome to Own the Season podcast. I'm Michelle Helen along with Art Helen and Brad Jones. We do have our dog Easton walking around here today too, so you might hear that in the background. Our special guest today is longtime friend Rick White. Hey, Rick.
How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Oh, doing just fine. Waiting for this weather to turn and a couple weeks to get here and head out to the turkey woods.
It's starting to feel like spring a little bit here and there, isn't it?
It is, certainly is. Yeah, and it's here in Iowa where I live. We're actually in the 40s today, which is as warm as it's been in several weeks. So it kind of gets you ready for it.
Nice. So we've known you for quite a while, Art especially. You guys go way back. Why don't you tell everyone like how you got started in the hunting business?
Yeah, I get people that ask me that all the time, and so I started really with Hunter Specialties, as most people know, and Hunter Specialties was a company that manufactured hunting supplies, and they were based out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and that's where I live. And I got into competition turkey calling quite a few years back, and I just so happened that I was looking for some calls for an upcoming fall calling contest. And nobody was selling back in those days. No one really sold turkey calls in the fall. Mm-hmm. And I contacted Hunter Specialties and actually, believe it or not, I got a hold of Matt Moret on the phone. And, now Matt and I have become, very good friends over the years. But I got Matt on the phone. He was very young at the time. I think 19 or 20 maybe. And I told him my situation, and he set me up with a bunch of calls and wanted to sit down and meet with me, and basically offered me a kind of a pro staff position on a part-time basis. And one thing led to another. And here I am, all these years later and still doing it. But I gained some valuable experience with Hunter Specialties over the years.
Yeah. So what are you doing these days then?
So when Hunter Specialties was sold several times, we all kind of went our own direction. And I was at the point in my life where I could retire. So I kind of semi-retired when I left HS. And I thought, I love hunting. I've been hunting since I was 6 years old, and I just wanted to continue to do it. So I thought, well, in order to make it work, I had to start my own show because, then I could get some sponsors would help pay for some of the hunts. And, everybody understands that, and some tax write-offs and so on and so forth. And so I started my own show, and to my surprise, it took off. And now I'm probably doing it more than what I even want to at this point, but I am. And I've got my own show called Through the Eyes of a Hunter, and it airs on the huntchannel.tv, Carbon TV, YouTube, and it streams on several other networks as well.
Are you still doing a lot of traveling with your hunting, or do you think in your semi-retirement, are you trying to stick closer to home in the Midwest? Or are you still chasing turkeys everywhere?
I'm still traveling. I probably don't do as many trade shows. I still do a few, in fact, this coming weekend, I'll be at the Iowa Deer Classic doing turkey seminars. So I still do a few shows, but not as many, but it seems like I travel just as much during hunting season, and that's okay for now. I'll slow down at some point. It seems like the older I get, the less I want to travel, but I'm still used to it and I'm still doing it.
Yeah, it's, I agree, as we get older, but I still like to do that. And, we actually had spoke to Matt not long ago, and we were talking about age and stuff. And I said, Matt and I are the same age. And I don't understand how we can be the same age as I'm getting grayer and balder, and Matt does not seem to be.
That looks the same. I don't know.
Well, he might not be gray, but he's getting balder. I can tell you that.
Oh, maybe, that's the one thing when the guys are wearing ball caps, it does usually hide a lot of that. You're kind of surprised when you see a hat come off sometimes.
I know, I hear that all the time. I go to these shows, and one thing that I hear a lot more these days that makes me feel old, and I remember when I was the new guy on the block, and now I'm kind of the old guy, so to speak, on the block. But I get a lot of people that come up to me and they look at me and say, I've been watching you since I was a kid. And these people look like, I think they're almost as old as I am. I'm like, well, how old are you? How are you? I mean, I'm not that old, am I? So I'm feeling older all the time.
Oh, funny.
It's true, and I look at it, and I grew up, and I'm the same age as Matt, but I grew up, and, like every kid's dream, just like yours, is, you got into the calling stuff. I was into the competition archery end of things, but I still loved the hunting and did a lot of turkey calling and some competition stuff. And I really kind of, I'm like, man, when I grow up, which, thinking these guys are on TV, they're a whole lot older than I am. And they really, you guys weren't, you're the same age, but I'm watching you guys on TV going, man, when I grow up, I want to be like these guys. These guys are, I look at Eddie and you and Matt and Alex and all these guys and Ralph and Vic and stuff. And I'm like, wow, someday I would love to do this. And I would, love to meet these guys. And then, I was blessed by being able to actually work with all of you and, with HS for years and years and film with Ralph and Vic and a lot of the guys and still doing, the things we love to do today. But, you say these guys have been watching. Maybe they're not that much younger than you. It's just we look at it going, man, when I grow up, I want to be like them. And we're truly the same age. It's just that when you look at somebody on TV, you don't really know how old they are. And sometimes you're just like, man, they got to be older than me because they've succeeded and they're already on TV. And that's not necessarily true. Yeah, you've already achieved that. And that, so you got to look at that side, Rick. Maybe that's what they're saying and you're really not that old.
Well, maybe. Hey, I'll take anything I can get if it makes me feel a little younger. But, you talk about everybody has the dream of wanting to do this. And I actually got to experience it. I mean, I was paid a good salary to hunt for a living, more or less. But let me also tell people that it's not all fun and games. As you know, it's a lot of work. And I was on the road, and it's not like your traditional pro staff and even the pro staff of today, because Hunter Specialties at the time was one of the few companies that had a full-time pro staff. And I was on the road between, 280 plus days a year gone. And if you think about that, that's 3/4 of the year, almost, over half that you're not even home. So it was hard on my family, and my kids were young. I missed a lot of their growing up, and I do regret some of that, but I was making a living and I was having fun doing it. So it was a job. And that's the way I looked at it. My wife was very good about me being on the road. So it did work out, but it was not all fun and games.
Mm-hmm. Right. Have you talked to your kids now about what that was like, what they thought of that growing up or what they remember about that?
Well, yeah, no. I mean, they're all, my kids now are all adults and in fact, 2 of them have kids of their own, and that's a whole nother thing. That's I'm a grandpa.
Be a grandpa,
yeah. So now maybe you are that old. No.
Yeah, so maybe I'm a little older, probably. Yeah, so
we could be grandpa.
But I am older than Matt, so I'm older than you. Yeah, but I have had that conversation, but everything was good. I mean, everything went good. It's just what I chose to do for a living at the time, and I don't regret that at all.
Yeah. I only ask because we recently talked to the girls maybe when they were home over Christmas. And I think Art was surprised at how little they were affected by that or negatively affected by that. It was their overall, what I heard them saying was really, we didn't know any different. That's just the way it was, you know. You were traveling, or they both were traveling, and we were at Grandma and Grandpa's house, or, you know, it was just the way our life was, and that they don't really like harbor any, you know, ill feelings. They don't feel like, you know, upset that, you know, Art missed birthdays and occasions and, you know, things like that. So I think that was, I think Art was surprised by that and somewhat relieved.
Yeah, I mean, and they grew up with it, and they understand, and you were doing it, you know, for a good reason. And I mean, you look at take like an over the road truck driver, it's not much different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not home. I'm sure it affects the family life some, but they're making a living, they're paying the bills. And at the time when we were younger, we had to do what we could do to pay the bills. I was in the grocery business for years, and I loved that too. It was great, and I was in it for quite a few years. But I mean, actually getting to hunt and travel and meet and see places that I never would have gotten to see, it was a dream.
Yeah,
it really was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it. You know, I look at that now, and I've been fortunate where, you know, my travels and where the seminars, you know, doing them for HS, doing them for Realtree, doing them for all these companies, where the seminars took us and what we got to see. I mean, I remember, you know, Realtree sending us back in the day, and you'd have to do like a 5-state jaunt in a week. So you'd get a rent-a-car and you'd be in one state one day and another state the next day, and you'd just drive. And that was cool because of the country you saw, the people you meet, the friends you make. That's some of the upside of this entire business and doing that. And, you know, you make lifelong friends. It's a business, and it's a small business, actually. With people looking in from the outside, they think that the industry is very large, and it's very small. And so the friends that you make usually are lifelong friends, unless you burn bridges. And you burn a bridge, and you burn a bridge with pretty much everybody in this industry, you know.
That's exactly right. I mean, it is a small industry, and yes, you tried very hard not to burn any bridges. And the people that did burn bridges, I mean, you know, because they're still out there wishing they wouldn't have. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a really kind of a touch and go industry for sure.
It is.
So,
You know what I've seen though, traveling with Art and the different shows and stuff, and Michelle, everybody is so friendly in this industry though. You know, it's really cool that way.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, and you're absolutely right. You know, just like anywhere, there's always a few bad apples, but for the most part, people in the hunting industry are good, solid people. And you know, one of the reasons I think that's true is because typically that's what the hunters are. They're just good people. They have I always tell people this, and maybe we'll talk about kids, but you know, getting kids out involved in the outdoors, whether it's hunting, fishing, camping, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, you know, kids getting into the outdoors have a better respect for life. And because they have a better respect for life, they lead a better life, and they lead by example. And it's just a great thing all the way around.
I've got, like, when I think of, you know, the people in the hunting industry or hunters themselves, just, you know, for the most part, just being good people. Like, I could think of like 2 stories that come to mind where we trusted or others trusted us, like almost total strangers, you know, but without really concern. And one was, I think it started down at the Iowa Deer Classic.
It did.
And it was, we had bad weather, maybe slippery roads, freezing fog. I feel like it was very foggy. Maybe the roads were slippery. And we were down there and didn't have much in the booth. So we were out of there, you know, quickly and headed home. And we'd met a vendor there who was from Green Bay, and he had much more in the booth to tear down and was going to be behind us. And we said, actually, I don't know if we talked about it there too. We might have talked about it briefly there because we'd been watching the weather or whatever. And then when we got on the road, we saw, then we were experiencing it, and we got about 45 minutes from home, and it was pretty bad. And we called and said, hey, because he had like 3 more hours beyond us to get home yet. And we said, hey, the roads are bad. You can stop at our house. We'll leave the front porch light on, the spare bedrooms in the basement. We'll leave lights on. Just come and crash at our house. And we went to bed. and the morning, and we got like kids at home. The kids were still home, and they're like, "Hey, who's the strange man in the basement?" And we're like, that's Jim. That's Jim. He was a firefighter in Green Bay. Vendor at the hunting show, Hunter. We had no qualms about having this almost total stranger stop and crash at our house, after we had gone to bed.
Right. No, exactly. Yep.
and then we had the flip. The flip was when we started mountain lion hunting out in Wyoming, and we actually hunt with like the friend of the father of the girlfriend of the friend that our friend met online, like that kind of a thing. One of the guys on our team from Spring Green, he had, met this guy out in Utah on like a hunting forum or something online, and then had hunted with him, I think, prior to this. And our cat hunting guide, was like, the girlfriend's father's friend. So they're like, hey, yeah, you can stay. She said, oh, you can stay at my mom and dad's house. We'll drive over, meet you there, introduce you to mom and dad. Okay. So they meet us, and we go up to the door together, the 4 of us. And she says, hey, mom, dad, this is Art and Michelle from Wisconsin. They're going to be, hunting with Laverne. Okay, fine. And they set us up in this spare bedroom. And then, nice people, right? And then the wife, went shopping or went to the store or something and was sharing how they had house guests from Wisconsin, friends of their daughters, boyfriend or whatever. And the person that she was talking to was like, what? Wait, you've got total strangers staying in your house? And she was like, well, I guess I never thought anything of it.
Right? No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's
and I don't know that you would do that with like anybody else off the street, right?
Well, yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, and so but I'm going to jump back just a little bit here. We were talking about the kids and how it affected the kids, and we actually did a podcast earlier with our daughters, discussing that and how it affected them. And like Michelle said, there were some things that really surprised me that I thought would affect them that didn't. But what surprised me more is how it affects them now as adults with this business than what it did then, because now they're like, but Dad, I had to change my wedding dates because you guys were gone filming, or we had to change, certain things.
Or had to plan the wedding around.
Or plan. Yeah, they didn't change it, but they had to plan the wedding around it. They had to plan things that they wanted to do as adults around our lives now. And that took me back a little more than, as being kids and them not really paying attention is, wow, there's, that's something I never really thought about, was the adult life and how it affects them there. But it's, so I guess back to where you were with, I would say probably 80 or 85% of this job, as is great. It's a lot of fun. There's downfalls to every job. Some of the downfalls are that, and also, some of the downfalls are everybody thinks that we just hunt for a living. And boy,
Yeah,
wouldn't
far
that
from
be
the
nice?
truth. Far
Yeah.
from the truth. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, kind of with that brought up, before we kind of get into some kids and stuff, kind of, when you were, like you said, 280 days or whatever, you were on the road, and I know I'm on the road a lot, but I want you to kind of elaborate on, what it was, like how many days, did you really hunt comparative to, now we've got editing and all that, but compared to being in an office and out selling product and doing that. I mean, kind of walk us through what it was like.
Well, hunting season was fairly long, and I not only hunted, but I, as you probably know, ran a camera. So I would say, if I was just to guess, I would say half the amount of time was probably spent hunting, or at least on a hunt, and half of it was, and because I lived in the Hunter Specialties, central, I was the guy that when I was around had to run into the office for this and that and all kinds of things. So, between running to Bass Pro Cabela's or whatever dealer that we were dealing with, doing seminars, doing in-store promotions, being in the office, there was a lot of it, and a lot of running around. And come elk season, that was the time of the year that probably was a little bit harder on me. I loved to elk hunt, but we would go to elk camp and be gone for a month. Mm-hmm. And not only were we gone for a month, back in those days, we didn't have any. The only way we could communicate with our family was to get in a vehicle and drive for about an hour before we could get some cell service to actually make a call home. Mm-hmm. So that was a little bit hard on me because, as you know, you never know what can happen. I think one of the things that happened when I was at elk camp is my son, my daughter was trying to run into a porch door, and my son ran up to push it shut and put his hands through the window and ended up getting staples and stitches all the way down his arm into his armpit. And I wasn't around, and those things bothered me a little bit, but it's just, that's just part of life. It happens. And unfortunately I was out of town. So, those things could be tough on you. So again, it wasn't just all fun and games. There's a lot of things that went along with what we had to do to sacrifice to have a great job.
Right. And, you brought up to running the camera, and, today, that's the thing, is everybody wants to be in front of the camera. But, as I talk to people and tell people, I'm like, that's the easy job. Shooting the animal is the easy job. Documenting everything, getting the shot on camera, doing all that stuff, that's the hard part. The cameraman has the hard part. We've got the easy part of squeezing the trigger on a gun or release on the bow. But again, that's not, to me, as everybody says, all you're doing is you're hunting all the time. No, you're not always hunting. You're trying to capture hunts. You're doing so it's not always I'm the hunter, I'm doing this. It's the being real is with that part of it. Again, with us editing and stuff, I would say, during hunting season, we're out a lot. But the other part of the business that people don't see, and I'm not trying to talk anybody out of the business. We actually did another podcast on how to get into the business, which I have no issues. I want to see this business survive, and I want to see hunting survive. And so, I'm more for helping people get into this. But, these are just things that people need to realize when they look at it and say, hey, I need to not only look at, I don't get to hunt all the time, but I'm going to have to maybe learn how to edit. I've got to learn how to do social media. I've got, because hunting season only lasts for, like you said, half of the year. The other half, you don't just sit around and sit in a boat and fish and watch TV. The other half of the year, you're extremely busy also. So
yeah, you got to have other marketable skills. You have to have something else you can bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about camera guys, and we could get into that at some point. I don't want to insult any camera people out there, but when we got into the business years ago, a video camera was the ones that we bought anyways at Hunter Specialties. They were $60,000 a piece, and you put a tape in them, that gave you 30 minutes of film footage. That's all. And it was a big tape. It was a heavy camera. The batteries were heavy. The tripods were just as heavy. It was really tough. And, and then you talked about editing, now that I have my own show and I was relying on some editors over the years, I now edit all my own stuff. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the best editor there ever was, but I do know what I'm doing, and I'm able to put the hunts together the way I want them, which is kind of nice as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly, did a lot of traveling, went on a lot of hunts, met a lot of people. Share with us one of your more memorable hunts?
Well, it's easy to say that. It's easy to tell you what's the most memorable hunt, and it's probably most people's most memorable hunt. But my most memorable hunt was my son killing his first turkey. Pat Reeve, which a lot of people know, actually filmed that hunt, and experience. Anytime I can take somebody out, especially a kid that's never shot a turkey or a deer, I mean, it's so rewarding. And I would really encourage anybody that hasn't experienced that to go out and experience it, because it is a great feeling. But yeah, when my son was just quite young, taking him out and we actually filmed not only his first turkey hunt, I have his first deer hunt with a gun, first deer hunt with a bow, and his first elk, all on video. So I have that for the rest of my life to go back and watch, and memories to me is what hunting's all about. I mean, if you think about it, what are some of your best memories? They're all based around your hunting experiences. But I've been on so many hunts in so many years, and there's so many great hunts. It'd take me days to really give you all my favorites, but that one was certainly the top of my list right there.
Mm-hmm. Do your kids hunt today?
My son loves to hunt, and he does a lot of it, or as much as he can with his job, and so on and so forth. And then my youngest daughter likes to hunt. She doesn't do it very often, but she does like to go. And my oldest daughter has really no desire to hunt.
Okay. All right.
Rick, are there any hunts that you want to do yet? Like bucket list type hunts, or?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I've done quite a few over the years, but one hunt I haven't done that I'm actually going to do next spring is and I've put this off for quite a while because I just didn't know if I really wanted to head down there. But I'm going to go down to Mexico on a Gould's hunt.
Nice.
And it's just something I've been wanting to do. It's a beautiful turkey, and it's just something I haven't shot. And I thought, well, it's time to go and do that. So. That's going to be a hunt. And then maybe down the road or here before long, maybe a moose hunt. I haven't done a moose hunt. I've had some opportunities. I've just always been too busy. And I've kind of always wanted to go on a moose hunt, but I'm going to do another elk hunt this coming fall if I draw my tag. I'm getting a little older, so I can't continue to do some of those hunts for too much longer. So I got to get some of them in while I can.
Yeah, well, the hips and knees and everything's still working well, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, you know how those elk hunts are, especially in places like Colorado or Idaho. I mean, you're walking up and down, and I don't care how great a shape you're in when you're an an Eastern like me or a Central guy, not used to the mountains. I don't care how when I first started going out there in my late 20s, I thought I was in great shape, and I was. But you get out in the mountains, and it proves you otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Flatlanders, yeah, it's different to go out there. That's for sure. I can't believe the turkey hunting master that you are, that you haven't shot a Gould's.
I just haven't pulled the trigger on wanting. Going to Mexico wasn't top on my list for quite a while.
Okay.
And when I was working with Hunter Specialties for quite a few years, it's just, we had a budget to work within, and it's just an expensive hunt down there. And it just, it was just something we tried to. I had so much money I could spend, and I'm like, well, I could go to Mexico and then give up 2 or 3 of my other hunts. No, I'm going to do those 2 or 3
right.
other hunts.
Quantity, yeah. Do you have do you have an ocellated then?
I'm sorry, say again?
Do you have an ocellated?
I do not. And maybe I will. I've been kicking that idea around. I've got a good place to go. I just don't know if it's, I mean, it's a beautiful turkey, but the way you hunt them, I just don't know if it's top on my list right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you and I are kind of the same. I love my whitetails and I love big whitetails. But I really love my turkeys too. Given one, deer or turkeys, which way would you go?
My gosh. How do you answer that? Yeah, you know, I obviously was deer hunting before I was turkey hunting because we did not have a season in Iowa until I think it was 74, 75, somewhere in there. But I was deer hunting much sooner. But in all reality, I love to deer hunt, but I got to believe I'd throw turkeys on top of it. I really do. I love it that much. It's a beautiful time of the year. You know, I'm taking off here and, well, 2 weeks from today, I'll be hunting down in Florida. So, you know, I leave here. It's cold. It's been nasty. Sometimes we have a lot of snow on the ground, and I drive down to Florida, and within a couple of days, I'm waking up and 70, 80 degrees out, and turkeys are gobbling, and it's just beautiful. But something about a turkey gobbling and sitting down next to that tree and calling them in is just the excitement of that. I still have it. I still get it. And so I'd probably have to say turkeys, maybe by a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you going after Osceola?
I've shot lots of Osceolas over the years, and and I'm going to go down, and that's generally about the last 5 or 6 years I've started my turkey season down in Florida.
It's a nice way to start it. Like I said, it's warmer earlier, you know, get a little jump on.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice in a way because see, some of the states, you know, we've got a turkey decline in a lot of the states, and because of that, states are starting to make, you know, some different rule changes, and some of those are shortening up the seasons and smaller limits. Well, because of the way Georgia has shortened their season up and gone from a 3-bird limit to a 2-bird limit, I now go down to Florida and I go to Georgia right after, but I have 2 weeks. So we usually are tagged out within the first week in Florida, and that gives me a week to just hang out in Florida, maybe go do a little fishing, maybe run over to Disney, whatever I want to do. It's just kind of a beautiful place to relax. I love Florida.
Nice. Yeah, we've kind of started with the out-of-state friend here for turkey season. He likes to fish too, so he likes to come out, you know, in May, you know, like mid-May, and we'll do some turkey hunting and then do some fishing, you know, either here, we've done some fishing here. And then last year, and I think this year too, we're also, you know, planning a fishing trip up to Green Bay while he's here. So when the weather's nice, you know, do a little hunting and a little fishing.
Yeah, I love to fish. I mean, I still try to, I don't get out as much as I used to, but you know, when I'm down in Georgia, we'll hit the rivers and we put out bush hooks and we catch catfish, and I used to go to Canada every year. I don't do that much anymore, but I do go to Lake Erie a couple of times a year walleye fishing. And I mean, that we just have a blast.
Nice. We haven't done Erie yet. We keep talking about it, but we haven't done that.
Yeah. And I actually, the last 2 years, I've filmed the fishing trips, and the first 2 years ago when we did it, I really went into filming a fishing. I'd never filmed a fishing trip. I really didn't know how I was going to throw it together. So the first year versus last year, it's like night and day. We got a couple of fishing episodes that'll come out this summer, and I'm pretty excited about them. They turned out pretty good in my opinion, anyways.
Oh, nice.
How many episodes do you run?
Well, I run all 4 quarters. So I run 26 first and second quarter and 26 third and fourth quarter. And like a lot of people, I run 13 originals and then rerun them the second quarter, 13 originals, third quarter, and rerun those on fourth quarter.
Wow.
Okay.
Nice. So you're running 26 brand new ones. That's a lot of,
and that's a lot of work.
Yes, it is. People don't
And that's
understand.
one of the reasons I got a turkey hunt, because we'll shoot a lot of turkeys. That doesn't seem to be a problem. Deer hunting, on the other hand, is you know what that's like. The success rate isn't as high. You put in more days. And then when I try to rely on some of my other guys that are filming some stuff for me, they seem to have a lot better luck turkey hunting than they do deer hunting. So I find that, most of the deer hunts that I put together are having to be by myself. And I just don't have enough time in the day to go out and get 13 deer hunts. I just I can't do it. So we use some filler. I use some hunts from other people. And, down the road, if you guys want to share a hunt, I'd be more than happy to air that. But, third and fourth quarter, we're generally looking for a couple of deer hunts. And then we'll throw in some coyote hunting and maybe a duck hunt. And even though I'm not a duck hunter, but a couple of our guys are. And I got a couple fishing trips. Throw those in there this year.
Nice. Yeah, we don't, I think we did one Lake Michigan fishing. I think we did one Green Bay fishing that we filmed, but so far, I mean, it might have to change now with sponsor stuff, but so far we've kind of kept the fishing as still a hobby and the fun thing that we still have left to do that hasn't become work. But the things that we, like our filler stuff, we have gotten into waterfowl hunting, probably for the last 3 years. So between snow goose, cans and ducks, we have an episode or two. Trapping, we've got some trapping footage that we can fill in with that. And then the other thing we started doing, I think we've been down there 2 years so far, has been the stingrays.
That's another thing. I've gotten a couple invites to go on a stingray hunt, and I may try to do that here at some point. It looks like it'd be fun. And I have an invite. Ronnie Adams, I don't know if you know who Ronnie is, but he's one of the gator guys, and he's invited me to come down and do some gator hunting. And although I've had a lot of opportunities over the year to go, I just never have. Just it's turkey season, and then if they have that early, I can't even remember when they have like an early fall season too or something. I'm just always
we did it in August, September.
In Florida, we did it in September many years ago. That's fun.
I would love to do that again.
Yeah, we had a blast. There's the season structure is a lot like our turkey season structure, and then you just get like a hunter assist permit, and then the actual permit holder has to be in the boat with you. But we had a blast. Like, I mean, it's expensive to go because like we're going as tourists, and you got to get the guides, and you got to, pay the. But if we lived down there and could do that every year, like we draw turkey tags, I'd be all on that. Yeah, that was a good time.
I've got some really good places that I can go. I just gotta pull the trigger and go.
Yeah, we had fun. We had fun with that.
Speaking of pulling the trigger, I'm going to kick this back just a little bit, talking about turkeys and stuff. Have you got into the 410 craze yet?
I have not. And first of all, Iowa, I think, just finally made 410s legal about 2 years ago. Maybe it's been 3, I'm not sure, but just recently. And so we couldn't even use them for all these years. When my kids were youth growing up, they had to shoot a 20 gauge, which is fine. I'm okay with a 410. I understand they shoot very well. I'll be honest with you. I'm a 12 gauge guy, kind of always have been. And that's what I like to shoot when I'm not bow hunting. So I haven't got into it yet. And I don't know if you're going to ask me about TSS or not, but there's, I have an opinion on that as well. So.
Well, I just actually picked a 410 up yesterday. And the reason I did is, my dad is in his 80s, still loves to turkey hunt. Has a 12 gauge. I've bow hunted turkeys since 1990, I think. I mean, I've shot maybe one turkey since with a gun, maybe 2. But so Dad only has a 12 gauge because that's what he always used, and that's what I have. Michelle had her 20 gauge, but as a more petite female, she had a youth. Female, so it's shorter, so it doesn't fit Dad very well. So I finally said, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm just going to get 410 and, set that thing up for Dad. And, I might even, if I get a second tag or something, I might even go out and try it just for something to do. And Michelle's shaking her head no, because she knows that if I'm shooting a turkey with a shotgun, that
it doesn't go well.
It does.
It just doesn't go well.
It never goes well, and usually
leave it to your dad.
It becomes who can pick out more BBs out of the breast if I'm shooting a turkey. So I don't know why that is.
I know.
And I don't know why that is, but and I am going to shoot TSS out of it.
If you're shooting a 410, I would recommend TSS with the 410 for sure.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm probably on the same wavelength as you, because we take, and we'll jump into this with youth. We take so many youth, and so many new hunters out with the 12 gauges. And so we pattern, we have to, running our learn to hunt classes and different things, we pattern so many shotguns that I look at it and I think that, again, like you said, the TSS and the 410, because it's heavier, there's just some better coefficiencies with it in that small. But I think there's so many other things that are made once you get into that 20 and 12 that are just as capable for half the price.
Oh, well, absolutely. And I'll give you my take on it. I first of all, I have a gun sponsor and a bow sponsor. So I try to, as much as I can, evenly use the weapons. I use my bow a little bit more in the fall, and I use the gun a little bit more in the spring. However, I'll shoot a couple of turkeys with my bow in the spring, and I like to bow hunt turkeys for sure. But TSS, so Winchester's one of my sponsors, and I don't know exactly what you're shooting, but I've shot Winchester Longbeards since they came out, and I love that shell. And I shoot most of my turkeys, a high percentage of my turkeys within 30 yards, and many of those within 15 yards. So I'm not worried about knockdown power. I get a good pattern out to 40 yards with what I'm shooting. Now, when Winchester sends me, which they have, some of the new TSS, I'll shoot them. But I'm not going to go out and buy TSS. And the reason for that is it's very expensive, and I don't think you have to have it. Now, does it pattern better? Does it make some guns shoot better? Can you shoot further out? Well, yes. But if you're buying TSS strictly so you can shoot turkeys further away, to me, that's the wrong message. Okay, that's not why you should be buying TSS. You should be buying it maybe because you do have a better pattern, more BBs. You can shoot a smaller size shot. Maybe it keeps you from shooting lead, perhaps. But how great of a pattern do you need? I mean, they're just as dead with a $9 box of shells for me as a $60 or $70 box of shells. And I've been turkey hunting for a lot of years, back when we were just shooting the old Supremes, and I was shooting 2 3/4 there for quite a few years until they actually had turkey loads come out. So, but I don't want to get into the debate on TSS over, you shoot whatever you want, shoot what shoots good in your gun,
Mm-hmm.
but please don't shoot TSS just so you think you can shoot turkeys at 60 and 70 yards, because I don't recommend that.
Yeah, I mean, if you need to shoot them at 60, 70 yards, you got some other things you could be working on doing better.
Maybe you're calling, huh?
Well, or the decoy setup, or
to me,
not set up in the right spot. I mean, there's just a lot of things to do.
To me, the best part of the hunt is when they do get close. And most hunters, and there's nothing wrong with this, if you're just going out to turkey hunt and your goal is to shoot a turkey, most hunters shoot that turkey as soon as they can, and that's fine. But it's if you'll just I've had turkeys come in and I've literally let them stay at my decoys for a half hour before I've shot them, and it takes pretty good patience and strength to do that. But it's so neat to watch what they do. You learn so much from that 40 yards, 30 yards and in. And nowadays with decoys, there's so many great decoys on the market. They're so realistic compared to what we had. When I first started turkey hunting, we couldn't even use decoys. It was illegal. And then the first decoys that came out looked like a sick chicken. I mean, and they worked okay, but when they got within about 15, 20 yards of them, they were generally about as close as they were going to get, sometimes turn and walk the other way. So, you set them up close so that you could shoot 20 yards beyond your decoys. Nowadays, you put your decoys where you want to shoot because they're coming into them and they'll hang out. And you can learn so much from them and enjoy that hunt. To me, it's the enjoyment of calling them in and letting them get close. That's the enjoyment for me.
Well, and that's the game too. I mean, that's what it's about, right? I mean, trying to get the animal close. I mean, not only are you going to get a more ethical shot, at just about any game species if you get it, nice and close. But yeah, you're learning from it. When you've got a turkey there and it's spitting and drumming and you can feel the vibration in your chest, like there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, I mean, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. And I think filming these hunts has made me a much more patient turkey hunter. And, we for lack of terms, we like to milk it with the footage. We like to get as much as we can. So instead of shooting that turkey at 30 yards, we want all that footage of them coming in and hitting the decoys and fighting and whatever, all these things that are going on. So over the years of doing that and with the footage in mind, I've just let them come closer, and that's customary for me.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do.
It's over here laughing and I think it's because we try to do that and he tries to have me do that, but I don't like to wait.
Yeah, there's no
and
we.
It's not so much like, oh, there's the turkey, it's in range, I'm going to shoot it. It's literally like we have some areas where we've had like packs of jakes that come in and like chase off your turkey, or I've had coyotes come in, so it's like, it's totally that like, bird in the hand. Like things can go wrong, and have gone wrong. So he's I've been known to like shoot him pretty quick, but I like to think I've gotten a little better. I think last year I did a little better.
She is very, very trigger happy. She uses all these excuses.
No, last year I did better.
She uses all these excuses, but honestly, Rick, she is like,
Brad,
turkey, boom.
Brad, you've seen the footage. I think I did better last year.
That's because you had no choice.
What do you mean? Oh.
Yeah, because it walked the edge of the woods. Otherwise, you would have shot that thing a long...
No. The other one out on Frank's.
That wasn't last year.
Oh, that was 2 years ago. Yes. See, 2 years I've been doing better.
See, sounds like you have some things to work on.
I don't know.
So yeah, if you ever want a quick turkey hunt, Rick, take Michelle because it's as soon as you call that thing in and that thing is okay, it's 25 yards.
No,
man, watch this thing and what it's gonna boom. Ah, crap! I hope you were on it because you better be on it. That's all I'm gonna tell you.
I've gotten a little better.
I tell you one thing that I've started to do though. Choke tubes are so well perfected these days. When I first started turkey hunting again, they didn't have turkey chokes, and now they have some of the best ones out there. I happen to shoot Indian Creek choke tubes is what I've been shooting, and they shoot so tight that I've kind of been one of those guys that always put my decoys when I'm bow hunting. I put them real close. I put them at about 8 steps. But when I'm gun hunting, I had one of my buddies last year got on me down in Florida. I stick them out at about 15 yards, and I have missed turkeys because they're too close because my gun shoots so tight at that distance. So I'm starting to put my decoys out at about 25 yards because that's the ultimate yardage to shoot with these choke tubes and the shells I'm shooting nowadays.
Yeah. So, well, one last question I guess I got here for you to kind of maybe wrap this up because you and I could. I think everybody else, we could sit and talk turkey hunting for the next 3 days. And so that just means...
But hey, we can talk to you down in Iowa, maybe.
Yeah, we'll talk to you in Iowa, and we'll have to get you back on here again. But
sure.
The one thing, we talked about youth. What do you think about, give us your thoughts real quick on recruiting youth new hunters and what that means
And what
going
needs to
forward.
happen? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think are some of the key things that need to happen for that to be successful?
Well, yeah, I mean, we all know that the average age of hunters is creeping up, and not as many young kids getting involved as they were years ago. And so I think there's lots of reasons for that, and some of them are single parent homes and things like that. But there's lots of organizations out there, and if you're not sure what they are, you can contact your local, Department of Wildlife, and they can give you some of those people. There's turkey chapters. There's Whitetail Unlimited. There's just lots of things, and then some of the local, residents, or the local agencies have some things going on too. So if you don't have the means or know somebody that's maybe getting you into hunting or shooting, contact some of those organizations, make some phone calls, and you can find out places where you can go and get your kids involved. Like we have Isaac Walton is a shooting club here in town, and they hold some kids events. And the kids, I've talked to some kids that really didn't have the desire or even really knew what was going on. They've gone out there, and all of a sudden they've got this new look on life. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun, and I didn't realize it was this much fun, whether they went fishing for the first time or shot a gun for the first time. So I would encourage those parents or families maybe to try to get their kids involved with those types of groups. And then for us as hunters, we just owe it to to get out there and promote. And that's what I did for years. I mean, that was part of my job. I wanted to promote hunting and, promote it to kids. Take a kid under your arm. Maybe you got a buddy that's got a kid and he's never been out hunting. Well, take him with you sometime. And sometimes that'll get them to where they want to go. But as hunters, we owe it to the hunting, I guess, world to just hand it down. Again, I think there's a better respect for life for these kids that are raised in the outdoors. So there's, again, lots of groups, lots of different ways to get involved. But, those of you that are listening and you know a kid that's never been out, do what you can to get them involved and try to get them out, because I think it's very important to do that.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, Rick. It was a pleasure to have you on, and good talking with you as always. And we hope we can visit with you down in Iowa.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on, and we'll do it again sometime. Meanwhile, next weekend, the Iowa Deer Classic. I know it'll be busy, but we'll find some time to sit down and chat. Sounds awesome. And that's it for today. We hope you learned something to help you own the season.
Follow Own the Season Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening.
Check back weekly for new episodes.